Welcome back to News Around, where the private turns public, and the human story behind every headline is revealed. In today's special report, we trace the intimate, profound, and unexpectedly luminous transformation of actor Halil İbrahim Ceyhan, whose recent confessions about impending fatherhood have rippled through social media and left audiences reconsidering what it means to mature in the public eye. For years, Ceyhan cultivated the image of a reserved performer, disciplined, discreet, and deliberate in what he chose to reveal. Yet in a recent interview, a conversation that has since become a touchstone for fans and cultural commentators alike, he allowed himself to be seen in a rare, unclothed emotional state. The message was simple but seismic: he is becoming a father, and the knowledge has not merely altered his calendar or schedule, but has reconfigured the very architecture of his interior life. "When I learned I was going to be a father," he said, voice tinged with shifts of joy and gravity, "I felt my whole life pivot. Priorities rearranged themselves like furniture after a storm. I woke up to a new perspective." Those words, delivered with an unadorned sincerity that surprised colleagues and fans, were not a staged sentiment for headlines. They were a confession, a personal reckoning in which the actor navigates the territory between selfhood and responsibility. In describing the moment he received the news, Ceyhan resisted the trite metaphors often used in celebrity interviews. Instead, he spoke of a substantive change, an inward metamorphosis that demanded an outward recalibration. Ceyhan did not romanticize the announcement, he framed it as a mandate. To him, fatherhood is not merely a title to be acquired but a discipline to be lived. "Suddenly," he explained, "I found myself juggling not just my desires but the future of another human being. That awareness forced me to measure choices against a new yardstick." The actor emphasized that this new yardstick is neither punitive nor burdensome in the narrow sense, rather, it is clarifying. Decisions that once seemed purely professional must now be assessed through the lens of care, longevity, and emotional inheritance. In one of the interview's most revealing passages, Ceyhan traced the contours of his fatherhood to childhood memories that have lingered with him since boyhood. He spoke of domestic rituals, evening meals, small but steady demonstrations of care that impressed upon him the meaning of guidance and presence. It was not a dramatized longing, it was a patient, steady desire to replicate the steadiness he once received. "My childhood taught me how a life can be tethered to simple acts of presence," he reflected. "To be a father in the way I imagine is to be a continuing example, to show the person I will raise how to live with dignity." From this vantage, parenthood is not an endpoint but a thread connecting generational hopes. Ceyhan's aspiration, he explained, is simultaneously humble and profound, to guide someone with the gentleness and clarity he once received. Ceyhan's openness produced an immediate public reaction. Fans took to social platforms with messages of affection not merely for the celebrity but for the human being who confessed to being changed. The actor's language, unsparing in moments and tender in others, resonated because it felt authentic rather than performative. Clips from the interview circulated widely. Viewers noted a softness in his gaze when he mentioned the future child, and countless commenters praised him for choosing candor over image management. The wave of support was telling. In an industry where private life is often packaged and paraded, the actor's candidness was received as a rare act of generosity. Followers did not ask for spectacle, they offered encouragement. Their responses, in aggregate, formed a portrait of a public that is hungry not just for gossip but for truth. Practicalities followed emotion. Ceyhan admitted that he has begun to revisit contracts, reconsider promotional tours, and think schematically about how his professional life can coexist with an emerging domestic one. "I used to take opportunities thinking only of myself," he said. Now I ask whether this will support the stability I want to give to my family. This posture suggests an artist in transition, one who refuses to sacrifice the integrity of personal life at the altar of career. The interview revealed that Cyan is exploring a more intentional approach, choosing scripts that respect his values and produce work that can be reconciled with his role as a parent. He expressed that, in some instances, he has declined offers because they demanded an intensity that would compromise the balance he seeks. That honesty transformed the narrative around him. Rather than being reduced to tabloid fodder, Cyan's evolution became a case study in how celebrity might interface with ordinary life. The public reaction suggested that audiences appreciate when an actor's humanity is foregrounded rather than hidden. What did you feel when you heard Halil İbrahim Ceyhan speak so openly about becoming a father? Do you think such revelations deepen the bond between a performer and their audience? Which Turkish celebrity's personal journey would you like News Around to explore next? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice shapes our coverage. If you value the stories we bring to life, please support News Around, subscribe, like, and consider clicking the join button to help us produce even more in-depth, human-centered reporting. Your engagement enables us to keep looking beyond the red carpet and into the lives that inspire us. What emerges from Cyan's statements is less a linear narrative than a portrait of maturation, a man learning to measure his actions by another's future. The tone of his revelation was not feverish celebration nor hollow anxiety, it was steadied by thoughtfulness. Fatherhood, in his telling, is an invitation to live more attentively. It asks for adjustment, for sacrifice, for a reweaving of ambitions into a life that holds space for another. Critically, Cyan emphasized that this is not an abandonment of art. Rather, it is an evolution of artistry, a recalibration that insists the work must be consistent with who he is becoming. He spoke of the actor's craft as something that can both demand and sustain tenderness, provided the choices are made with care. If there is a moral center to Cyan's account, it is the value he places on presence. He spoke less about grand gestures and more about constancy, being there for a child's earliest nights, aligning work with family rhythms, and modeling a life of respectful engagement. These are not cinematic proclamations but practical commitments, the kind that quietly alter a person's schedule and priorities. In this sense, the actor's transformation might be understood as a practical spirituality, an ethic of daily attention that redefines success not by accolades but by the quality of relationships nurtured. The significance of Halil İbrahim Ceyhan's confession lies not merely in the arrival of a new life but in the visible manner in which it has softened and reshaped him. In an industry that prizes image, his willingness to admit to internal change is both brave and instructive. It encourages a rethinking of how we interpret celebrity, not as an unending spectacle, but as a sequence of human moments that resonate because of their honesty. As we follow his journey from this point forward, it will be telling to observe how he continues to balance the call of craft with the call of family. Will his choices inspire other public figures to speak with similar candor? Will audiences continue to reward vulnerability with respect rather than scorn? These are the questions that lie ahead. Thank you for joining this News Around special. If this story moved you, if it made you pause and consider your own relationships and responsibilities, then share it with someone who might appreciate it. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions are the lifeblood of our channel. Stay with News Around, where real stories live.